My name is Chloe, and I am 19 years old, and Vienna is my home, a city that breathes music from every stone and alleyway. I dream of becoming a pianist, of filling grand concert halls with melodies that soar and whisper, that touch the deepest parts of people's hearts. But for now, my days are a quieter, harder kind of symphony. Each morning begins before the sun dares to peek over the rooftops. I work at a small bakery, the air thick with the scent of fresh bread and pastries, kneading dough until my forearms ache. It's honest work and the tips help, but it's not music. After my shift, I rush to the conservatory, my heart thrumming with anticipation. The worn keys of the practice room pianos are a comfort, even if they are often shared, even if I have to wait my turn. Nights are for studying theory, for composing small pieces on paper, for dreaming of a piano of my own. My small apartment, barely more than a room, feels empty without the rich resonance of an instrument. It's hard, sometimes impossibly hard, to keep believing that my dreams are more than just dreams. The tuition fees for the conservatory are a mountain I feel like I'm constantly climbing, and each month brings another steep incline. There's a whisper inside me, a quiet, insistent voice that asks, "Are you good enough, Chloe? Is this dream too big for you? Should you just give up, find a steady job, stop chasing something so far away?" That voice, that internal nemesis of doubt, is my hardest opponent. I knew I needed more practice time. The shared pianos at the conservatory were never enough, and even then, sometimes the keys were sticky or out of tune. One afternoon, scrolling through an old community forum, I saw an advertisement. Broken upright piano, €10 must pick up. €10. It sounded too good to be true, a miracle in a city where instruments cost a fortune. I scraped together the money, half of my daily earnings, and called the number. The piano was in an old apartment building, and the kindly man who opened the door just wanted it gone. He warned me it was very heavy, very broken, and probably unfixable, but I didn't care. It was a piano. It was mine. Getting it to my tiny apartment was an adventure in itself. I had to pay a little extra to a friendly delivery driver who usually moved furniture, and even then, we struggled, grunting and straining, to push the heavy beast up the narrow stairwell. Once it was finally settled against my wall, looking enormous in the small space, I saw just how broken it was. Several keys were missing their ivory tops, revealing the raw wood underneath. One pedal was completely detached, lying uselessly on the floor. The soundboard had a long, spiderweb crack, and when I pressed a few keys, the notes were a dissonant clang, rattling like old bones. My heart sank a little. I spent the next few evenings trying to fix it myself. I watched countless videos online, borrowed tools from a neighbor, and even bought a small bottle of wood glue. I tried to reattach the pedal, but the mechanism was too complex. I attempted to tune a few keys, but they just sounded worse. Each failed attempt chipped away at my hope. The piano, meant to be a symbol of progress, felt more like a monument to my failures, a constant reminder of how much stood between me and my dream. The tuition deadline loomed closer and closer. I had received a stark letter from the conservatory, a polite but firm reminder that if my outstanding balance wasn't paid by the end of the month, my enrollment would be in jeopardy. My part-time job barely covered rent and food. I cut back on everything, even simple treats. My diet became a repetitive cycle of cheap bread and plain vegetables. My hands, usually eager to find the keys, felt heavy with the weight of my worries. One evening, after a particularly grueling shift at the bakery and a frustrating hour spent trying to coax a decent sound out of my broken piano, I just sat down on my small bed and stared at it. It was a dark, silent presence in my room. The reality hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't afford the tuition. I couldn't fix the piano. I couldn't even manage to make a simple meal without counting every euro. The internal voice of doubt roared louder than ever. "This is it, Chloe. Time to give up. Time to admit defeat. Music isn't for you." Tears streamed down my face, hot and stinging. I buried my face in my hands, feeling utterly, completely defeated. I thought about packing up my few belongings, telling my professors I was leaving. The dream felt shattered into a million pieces, just like my piano. The next morning, a dull ache lingered behind my eyes. I looked at the broken piano again, not with hope, but with resignation. I decided I would try to sell it for scrap, or at least give it away. Before I did, I thought I should clean it one last time, a farewell to a dream that never quite took flight. I ran my fingers along the dusty, yellowed keys, then reached underneath the fallboard, where the dust always gathered. My hand brushed against something loose, a small wooden panel that seemed to come away slightly. Curiosity, a tiny spark in my otherwise gray mood, nudged me. I pushed on the panel a little more, and it swung inward, revealing a hidden compartment, dark and smelling faintly of old wood and something else, something sweet like dried lavender. Inside, nestled among folds of aged velvet cloth, were several envelopes and a thick stack of euros, neatly bound with an old string. My heart began to pound, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. My hands trembled as I carefully pulled out the envelopes. The first was addressed to the next dreamer, in elegant, looping handwriting. I tore it open. The letter inside was dated many years ago and signed by someone named Eleonora. "My dearest next dreamer," it began, "if you are reading this, it means you have found my old friend, this piano. It brought me so much joy and so much frustration. I was a young musician once, just like you, struggling in this beautiful, demanding city. I know the sacrifices you are making, the doubts you carry, the aching desire to create something beautiful. Life dealt me some harsh blows, and I had to leave my musical path sooner than I wished. But I never stopped loving music, and I never stopped hoping that another young soul would find my piano and understand its magic, even its broken parts. This money is for you, my dear. It is a portion of what I saved over many years, hoping to one day resume my studies. Now, it is yours. Use it for your tuition, for repairs, for anything that will help you keep your dream alive. Do not give up. The world needs your music." My eyes blurred with tears, but this time they were tears of overwhelming gratitude, of a profound, unexpected connection. The stack of euros was more than enough to cover my tuition, with even a little left over. It wasn't just money, it was a message, a lifeline thrown across time, a whisper of hope from a stranger who understood. It was the greatest act of kindness I had ever known. I paid my tuition that very day, my head held high, a lightness in my step I hadn't felt in months. I also found a wonderful, elderly piano tuner who, after hearing my story and seeing Eleonora's letters, offered to fix my piano for a very modest price, saying he felt a connection to the story. He worked magic, restoring the keys, reattaching the pedal, and coaxing the old instrument back to life. It sang again, a rich, warm tone that filled my small apartment with joy. Now, I practice every day, my fingers dancing across the keys, fueled not just by my own passion, but by Eleonora's legacy. I've started volunteering at a local community center, teaching basic piano to children from low-income families. I tell them stories of hope, of unexpected kindness, of how even broken things can be made whole again. I often leave little encouraging notes in the conservatory practice rooms, sometimes slipping in a few euros for a coffee, just a small, anonymous gesture to lift another struggling student's spirits, paying forward the kindness that changed my life. My piano, Eleonora's piano, stands proudly in my room, its secrets now shared, its melodies a constant reminder that dreams, when nurtured by generosity, can truly take flight. Just last week, while helping to clean out the community center's dusty old attic, I found a faded photograph. It was a picture of a group of young musicians from decades ago, smiling brightly. In the front row, holding a violin, was a young woman with kind eyes, her name scrawled on the back, Eleonora. It was a twist of fate, a quiet confirmation that the ripples of kindness truly do travel through time, connecting us all in ways we can barely imagine. Things really do get better.